Episode 5, man.
Yeah.
This is where it gets, like, really, really heavy.
Yeah.
We saw Bruce find so much with Lynn,
Yeah.
like love and success. But now everything, it's like, it's all crashing down.
Yeah, it's like, wow, just how fast a life can just unravel, right?
It's crazy. And, like, it's almost, you see these setbacks, and they just snowball into just this huge, the series of losses.
Yeah.
And, it's like a domino effect. You just knock one over, and then, everything.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad to see this happen to Bruce.
So let's talk about, this first major injustice. I mean, he loses his career. He has to close his practice.
Right.
And, I think we have to talk about John F.,
Yeah.
the therapist we discussed in the last episode. I mean, he seems to have played a pretty big role in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it really, when you read through the source material, it seems like, John F. maybe like almost like fueling these complaints that were filed against Bruce,
Yeah.
With the licensing board, which is, that's just really disturbing. Especially, when you think about it, like Bruce, he's already dealing with Lynn's departure,
Yeah.
which was, really sudden.
Yeah.
And like to have to deal with that heartbreak
Right.
while simultaneously, trying to fight to save your professional reputation. It's
Right.
like, how do you even process all of that?
Yeah. How do you even function? And then on top of all of that,
Right.
he's ordered to undergo a psych eval.
Right.
And, decades later, we have another psychologist suggesting that, Bruce actually could have sued for malpractice,
Oh, wow.
which implies, that the evaluation process, it was flawed.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And it raises some serious questions, right?
Yeah.
About, like, potential bias.
Yeah. And like these power imbalances, right, within these professional organizations. Was Bruce really evaluated fairly? Or were these psychologists maybe predisposed to see him negatively because of all these complaints that had been filed against him? I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but the fact that, he was accused of lacking empathy, which is crazy.
Right.
Like, that's the core of his work.
Yeah, like, this is a therapist we're talking about.
Yeah, a therapist.
So this statement in the consent decree, where he agrees to surrender his license, it really highlights just this huge disconnect between who Bruce really is,
Right.
and how he was being perceived by, like, by these authorities, these people in power.
Yeah. And it's I mean, this theme, right, of him being misunderstood and like his actions always being twisted and misrepresented. It's like a recurring thing in his story. It's really sad.
And then, you've got this whole thing with the phone calls. This accusation of harassing phone calls from John F., it's clearly made up.
Yeah.
And yet somehow he's found guilty.
Yeah.
Like, there's no evidence.
Right. And it's so frustrating because it really shows you how the legal system, it can be so unjust.
Yeah.
It's like a classic example of how, a narrative can be manipulated, especially when there's, this power dynamic at play.
Right.
John F., by positioning himself as the victim, it's like he just sways everyone against Bruce.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bruce's own public defender, they like delayed the request for the phone records.
Oh my gosh.
Which could have cleared his name. I mean, that's just, come on.
Yeah.
That's another systemic failure right there.
It makes you wonder how many other people are out there.
Right.
Stuck in these situations, victims of, these fake accusations and a system that is just not designed to really protect the truth.
It's a scary thought. And for Bruce, this is just the beginning.
Sure.
I mean, he's lost his partner, his career, his reputation, and he decides to leave Wilmington. It's like he's trying to get away from everything. But as we'll see, it's not that easy.
It's like he's trying to outrun the ghosts of his past.
Yeah, exactly. But the trauma, it follows you.
Yeah.
And so does that feeling,
The injustice.
Yeah, the injustice. It sticks with you.
So he goes to Durham.
Right.
But it's more than just, moving.
Oh, yeah.
He's leaving behind, like, a part of himself.
It's his identity.
Yeah, sense of belonging.
Yeah.
He's carrying all of this with him.
All this baggage.
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff.
And we see this when he tries to date, using those online sites.
Yeah.
He's trying to connect. He wants to rebuild.
Yeah, he's trying.
But it's so hard.
But it's so hard to open up.
It's like, how do you let someone in when you've been hurt so badly? Right. And he actually mentions, that most of the women he tried to connect with after Lynn were black.
Yeah. And the source material, like, really makes a point of saying that these women were kind to him. They didn't
Yeah.
hurt him
Right.
at all.
And I think that's an important detail to highlight, considering where the story goes later.
It is. And it speaks to, Bruce feeling comfortable,
Yeah.
connected
Yeah.
with these women. They offered him, companionship and support during this incredibly difficult time.
Yeah, and it's almost like he was searching for somewhere safe,
Yeah.
a place where he can just be himself.
A haven.
Yeah, a haven.
Yeah.
Without judgment, without fear. But as we'll see, that sense of safety, it's shattered. And it's shattered in the most horrific way.
It's just awful. And the fact that, even when he's trying to rebuild, to find love and connection, he just keeps encountering these hardships and betrayals.
Yeah.
It's a cruel irony. And it makes you think about this theme, right? Of vulnerability, the search for a safe haven. It's something that's just going to keep coming up.
Yeah.
Throughout his story.
Over and over again, he's like stuck,
Yeah.
in this downward spiral.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like every time he tries to climb out, he just falls further down.
Exactly. It's, he's trying to find his footing in Durham, but it's like all that baggage from Wilmington, the loss of Lynn, his career, his reputation, it's all just weighing him down. And, this is where we start to see that trauma really affecting him.
Yeah, like in his everyday life.
Exactly. His ability to just function normally.
Right, like at his job at Eckerd's,
Yeah, when he accidentally sells that alcohol to a minor.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's a tough situation.
It really is.
And it's a reminder that, trauma isn't just an emotional thing.
Right.
It messes with your brain,
Yeah.
It has a real impact on how we think.
Right, like our cognitive function.
Exactly. When we're anxious, our brains are just flooded with those stress hormones.
Yeah.
And it makes it so hard to focus, to think straight, to make good decisions.
So it's not like he was just being careless or something?
No.
It's like he couldn't even process things properly.
Yeah, his ability to think clearly, to make those decisions, it was impaired.
Because of the trauma.
Because of the trauma, exactly. And what's so sad is that this one mistake, this direct result of all that anxiety, it just sets off this chain reaction.
Right, and things just keep getting worse.
Exactly.
He misses his court date.
Right.
They issue a warrant for his arrest.
Yeah.
And he ends up in jail.
And this is where those systemic failures we were talking about earlier, they really come into play.
Right, like Bruce is already overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, he's barely keeping it together.
And it's no wonder he missed that court date.
It's completely understandable.
But instead of getting support,
right, some understanding.
he's punished.
Yeah, the system is it's not set up to help people like Bruce.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And to make things even worse, his family.
Oh, don't even get me started.
The people who should have been there for him.
You would think they would be his rock,
They abandoned him.
Still heartbreak.
He reaches out to them from jail, asking for help.
Yeah.
And they're just cold.
Yeah.
They reject him. It's like, I can't even imagine.
It's like another layer of betrayal on top of everything else.
Yeah.
It reinforces that whole theme of abandonment
Right.
that we've been seeing throughout his story. It's like he's being punished for being vulnerable, for needing help.
It's like, how do you survive that,
It's so much to deal with.
To be betrayed by the system, by your own family, to have your dignity stripped away, your freedom. And on top of that, you're still dealing with all that trauma.
It's amazing he even made it through this.
I know. And he talks about being extradited back to Wilmington in chains.
Yeah.
I mean, this man, he was a respected professional.
I know. It's crazy to think about.
And now he's being treated like a criminal.
The shame, the humiliation, it's just awful.
And I think this really highlights that theme of toxic shame.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about the situation he's in, but it's like this feeling that he's somehow inherently flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like he deserves to be punished.
Yeah, and that kind of shame, it can be so destructive.
It can make it impossible to move forward.
And then in the middle of all this darkness,
Right.
there's this small act of kindness.
Oh, yeah, Jean Jones.
Yeah, she offers him Thanksgiving dinner, a place to sleep.
It's like a little glimmer of hope,
Right.
in all this darkness.
It's like a reminder that even when the system fails you,
And even when your own family turns their back on you,
yeah,
there are still good people out there.
there's still compassion.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much that little bit of kindness meant to Bruce.
It's huge,
Yeah, it gave him a little bit of faith back. In humanity.
And then there's this detail about the street sheet,
Yeah.
the one he developed, and then later receives as a homeless person.
Yeah.
It's like a cruel joke.
Yeah, like a twist of fate.
Yeah, a reminder of how much his life has changed.
And it speaks to that cycle,
Of poverty.
Yeah, of homelessness. It's like these systems, they're designed to help people who are struggling.
Right.
But they often end up trapping them.
Yeah.
Even someone like Bruce, who had the skills, the desire to help others.
It's just tragic.
It really is.
It really makes you think.
It does. And as we move into the next part of Bruce's story, the events leading up to that attack, we have to remember everything he's been through.
Right.
All that trauma, the betrayal, the loss, it's all shaped him.
Made him vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's scary, to think that after everything, he's about to go through something even worse.
Yeah. It's like you could feel it coming.
Right.
This tension, this buildup.
Yeah, like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. And the way he talks about it, like he knows something terrible is going to happen.
Right.
But he can't stop it.
Like he's bracing himself.
Yeah, and it's like watching a car crash in slow motion.
Yeah, and then, this detail about him expecting a black woman to arrive that day.
Right. Right. He mentions Shonda, his girlfriend, or another black female friend.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the trust he felt, with these women.
Like they were his safe space.
Exactly. He felt safe, comfortable, no sense of danger or anything.
Yeah, it's like in this world that had become so hostile, so unforgiving.
Yeah.
He had this network of strong black women who offered him this sense of,
belonging.
Yeah, belong.
But the source material, it kind of throws you for a loop.
Right.
Because it's not a black woman.
Who attacks him.
It's a white woman.
Yeah, and that's just messed up.
It is. It makes you question everything.
Right, like your assumptions about who's dangerous, who's safe.
It reminds you that prejudice, that hate, it can come from anywhere.
And that you can never predict where the danger is going to come from.
Exactly.
This deep dive into Bruce's story, it's been a lot.
It has.
It's been an emotional roller coaster, to say the least.
I know. I feel like I've been through it with him.
I know, me too. I mean, it's so hard to even fathom the depth of his suffering,
Yeah, all that loss, that betrayal.
Yeah, it's just relentless.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me, that he's still here.
It is. It is. It speaks to his resilience.
His strength.
That belief in himself and his innocence. It's inspiring.
And even though this episode has focused on, the unraveling of his life, it's not over.
No, not at all.
Bruce's journey, it's far from over.
In the next episode, we'll dive into the aftermath of the attack.
Yeah, and explore the long road to healing.
And injustice.
It's a journey,
Yeah.
full of challenges, full of setbacks.
But also moments of hope.
Yeah, moments of resilience. Bruce's determination to reclaim his life, to fight for his innocence, it's something else.
It really is.
So we'll leave you to think about Bruce's story. It's a story that forces us to look at some hard truths about ourselves, about the world, asks us to be more compassionate, more understanding, more willing to fight for what's right.